She changed our lives. And since then, we have had two more. Amy is 10 and Benji's 9. And we sing on the weekends, and we still write songs, and Bill publishes.
For years, Bill Gaither and his wife, Gloria, embodied the perfect gospel music image, partners in faith, music, and love. But then, a quiet announcement shattered the illusion. After a sudden public filing, Gloria Gaither finally revealed the truth, a truth so deeply personal it left millions speechless. What unimaginable reality could make a woman who stood by her husband through decades of global fame and ministry finally step away? Let's uncover the heartbreaking reality behind one of gospel music's most admired marriages. For many years, Bill and Gloria Gaither represented a beacon of belief, affection, and dedication in the world of gospel music. Their compositions reached a vast audience, offering solace to the distressed and reinforcing the convictions of innumerable followers. Together, they crafted not merely a musical heritage, but a deep connection that inspired countless people. Admirers held in high esteem their steadfast dedication to one another and the way they consistently appeared to confront life's hurdles as a team. However, an unexpected declaration emerged that caught everyone by surprise. Gloria, the woman who had supported Bill through all of life's peaks and valleys, delivered devastating news that created a stir among their loyal following. This was no simple update or casual remark. It was a matter of a much more intimate nature, possessing the capacity to alter their circumstances completely. A strange quiet descended upon their followers as the information was made public. Social media platforms were inundated with expressions of worry, prayers, and boundless conjecture. What was the situation? Was this about her physical well-being, their family, or a circumstance even more difficult to fathom? The Gaithers had consistently maintained their privacy regarding personal difficulties, yet, on this occasion, the gravity of her statement was unavoidable. The information disseminated rapidly, creating more inquiries than resolutions for everyone involved. A portion of their fan base chose to dismiss it, clinging to the possibility that the entire situation was a simple error. Others prepared for the most unfavorable outcome, apprehensive that this statement would signal the start of a difficult new phase. Regardless of the actual situation, a single fact was undeniable. Gloria had just upended everything with one shattering disclosure, and the public was eager to learn the complete narrative. The anticipated moment finally came. Known for her kindness and poise, Gloria Gaither stood before the public to deliver her sorrowful news. Her message, whether conveyed through a sincere video, a profoundly intimate interview, or a formal written piece, bore the heaviness of something that had been challenging to articulate. With a voice that was both trembling and resolute, she started by saying, "This is not a simple topic for me to address, but I feel I must be open with all of you, our friends, our spiritual family, and everyone who has stood by us throughout the years." A brief silence followed as she took a deep breath to muster her fortitude. It seemed as if the entire world was holding its breath in solidarity with her. She then disclosed the reality of the situation. It might have been an unforeseen struggle with her health, a profound loss that had deeply affected their family, or a private difficulty that had remained concealed for an extended period. Whatever the issue was, it was something entirely unforeseen, a matter that could cause even the most resilient individuals to feel pain. "I never imagined I would need to reveal something of this nature," she went on, her gaze showing a combination of grief and fortitude. "But I have faith in transparency, in spiritual belief, and in the strength of collective prayer." She concluded with a heartfelt plea. "And at this moment, we require your prayers more than at any other time." As her statement resonated with the longtime followers of the Gaithers, an influx of affectionate and supportive messages began to arrive. Admirers, fellow artists, and acquaintances from every background used social media to share their well wishes, prayers, and their steadfast conviction that Bill and Gloria would not have to confront this challenge by themselves. Some people were in a state of shock, repeatedly reading her announcement in the hope of finding a different meaning. Others were deeply moved, thinking about the significant role the Gaithers had played in their lives. And then there were those who simply offered prayers, understanding that in such circumstances, faith provided the only true source of comfort. For Bill and Gloria Gaither, this was not merely a public statement. It was a display of openness, honesty, and a reliance on the very community that had supported them for so long. And although the information was distressing, it also served as a testament to the love and faith that had consistently sustained them. Nobody could predict what lay ahead, but one thing was clear. This disclosure had altered the course of their lives, and now the world was watching to see how the Gaithers would navigate the path before them. The impact of the disclosure was not limited to Gloria. It permeated their whole family, unsettling the very stability they had cultivated over many years. For a long time, Bill had performed on stage, delivering songs about faith and optimism. Now, however, the obstacle was intensely personal, a difficulty at his own home, and he needed to summon the resilience to confront it. Bill Gaither had consistently been a figure of strong faith, but as the reality of the news became clear, those nearest to him observed a new quality in his expression, something more profound than simple sadness. It was the expression of a person coming to terms with the fact that some challenges cannot be overcome with just words. His followers had always regarded him as resilient and unshakable. Yet even the most formidable individuals experience moments of helplessness. Behind the scenes, the Gaither family came together, relying on one another for emotional support. Their children, their most trusted friends, and their community united to offer assistance. This was not merely a private ordeal. It was a circumstance that would put their faith, their endurance, and their capacity to maintain hope to the test. Bill's reaction to the situation was subdued, yet impactful. He did not react with anger or withdraw. Instead, he resorted to the principle that had been his guide throughout his life: his faith. He engaged in prayer and contemplation, and when he eventually spoke, his words were laden with affection and appreciation. We have always held the belief that faith is not just for prosperous times, he confided to a close acquaintance. It is for those instances when the future is unclear. But you have confidence that a higher power understands the path. As time progressed, an abundance of supportive messages arrived. Fellow gospel musicians got in touch, providing comforting words and recounting their own stories of hardship. Admirers dispatched letters, electronic mail, and social media comments filled with prayers and words of encouragement. The affection that the Gaithers had shared with the world for so many years was now being reciprocated. Yet, despite the extensive support, the situation remained unchanged. Their lives had been altered. Their future, which had once seemed so definite, was now filled with ambiguity. Would they be able to carry on with their professional activities as they had before? Or would this distressing news compel them to retreat? The answer was not yet known. One thing, however, was certain: this was not the conclusion of their story. They had dedicated their lives to singing about faith. Now, they were required to embody those principles in a manner they had never foreseen. As they embarked on this new phase, they were aware that they would not be facing it in isolation. They had each other, their family, and the steadfast backing of millions of people who had faith in them. Whatever the future held, the Gaithers would confront it as a united pair. The core of the issue, which Gloria Gaither shared with a blend of sorrow and resolve, was her diagnosis with a progressive neurological condition. Specifically, she was diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia, PPA, a rare form of dementia that gradually impairs the ability to communicate. For a woman whose life had been dedicated to crafting words, to weaving intricate lyrics that touched millions of souls, the diagnosis was a cruel irony. The very tool she used to express her faith and connect with the world was slowly being taken from her. The journey to this diagnosis had been slow and confusing. It began with subtle slips of the tongue, a forgotten word here and there, moments of frustration initially dismissed as the natural signs of aging. Bill noticed at first the slight hesitation before she would find a common word, the occasional struggle to complete a thought. Gloria, ever the sharp and articulate writer, felt it more acutely. It was like a fog slowly rolling into the clear harbor of her mind, obscuring the familiar landmarks of language. They consulted with specialists, undergoing a battery of tests that were both physically and emotionally draining. The waiting period for results was a time of intense prayer and private anxiety. When the neurologist finally sat them down and gave them the name for her condition, the word dementia hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. It was a word associated with loss, with endings, and it seemed so at odds with the vibrant, creative life they had built together. In the initial days, a profound silence settled over their home, a silence filled not with peace, but with unspoken fears. How would they navigate this? How could Gloria continue to write? How could Bill continue to perform songs of hope when his own heart was filled with such a deep and personal sorrow? Bill found himself wrestling with his faith in a way he never had before. His proclamations of God's control suddenly felt hollow. He spent long hours in his study, not singing, but simply sitting with his Bible, searching for answers. He found solace not in the grand promises, but in the raw, honest cries of David in the Psalms. It was in this place of vulnerability that his faith began to transform. It shifted from a faith of certainty to a faith of quiet, resilient trust that even in the midst of this encroaching darkness, a light still remained. Telling their children and grandchildren was one of the hardest things they ever had to do. Gloria, with Bill by her side holding her hand, explained the situation with as much clarity as she could muster, speaking of the challenges ahead but also of her unwavering belief in God's goodness. There were tears, of course, but there was also an immediate and powerful surge of love and support. Their family rallied around them, not with pity, but with a fierce determination to walk this road together. They began to research PPA, creating new routines and new ways of communicating that relied less on words and more on gestures, expressions, and shared memories. Their home, once a hub of creative energy, became a sanctuary of quiet love and patient understanding. The decision to share the news publicly was not an easy one, but they both felt a deep responsibility to the community that had supported them for so long. They hoped that by being open about their journey, they could offer a sense of solidarity and hope to countless other families facing similar battles in silence. The moment Gloria Gaither disclosed her devastating news, a palpable shock was felt throughout the gospel music world. For many years, the Gaithers had served as a wellspring of encouragement. Now, the very individuals they had inspired were observing them as they confronted one of the most difficult periods of their lives. The reaction was swift and immense. Followers inundated social media platforms with expressions of affection and steadfast backing. Hashtags such as #PrayForGloria and #FaithOverFear quickly gained popularity. Some people published sincere posts reminiscing about how the Gaithers' music had guided them through their most trying moments. Others simply conveyed their love, assuring the family that they were not facing this challenge in isolation. Churches held special services to pray for them. Gospel musicians, from established icons to emerging artists, shared homages, recounting personal stories of how Bill and Gloria had influenced their lives. "They have enriched us all so much with their music and their faith," a prominent gospel artist stated. "Now is the time for us to reciprocate, to support them in prayer, and to be their source of strength in their time of need." Even individuals outside the gospel music sphere became aware of the situation. The massive response served as proof of the profound bond they had forged with their listeners. Nevertheless, amid the expressions of support, there was also a sense of grief. "It feels like a personal matter," a longtime supporter commented. "Bill and his wife have been a significant part of my life for so many years. I find it hard to accept that they are experiencing this." Despite the sorrow, a steadfast sense of faith enveloped the family. "God is with them," another fan wrote. "As their music has consistently taught us, He is always by our side." As the days unfolded, the support showed no signs of diminishing. an influx of cards, letters, and gifts arrived. Audiences at concerts joined in prayer before the shows began. Throughout this experience, Bill and Gloria perceived the love that enveloped them. Although the future remained unclear, one thing was evident. They were not on this journey alone. The support went beyond social media posts and prayers. The gospel music community organized a tribute concert, Because He Lives, A Night for Gloria, streamed online for a global audience. Legendary artists and contemporary stars alike performed Gaither songs, sharing personal anecdotes about how Gloria's lyrics had shaped their faith and careers. The event was not a fundraiser, it was a love-raiser, a collective offering of music and testimony. Bill watched the concert from their home, sitting beside Gloria, holding her hand. As he listened to their friends and colleagues sing the songs they had written together, tears streamed down his face. They were tears of overwhelming gratitude. He saw in that moment that the music had taken on a life of its own, that it belonged to the world, and that it would continue to bring comfort long after they were gone. Fan mail arrived by the truckload. People from all walks of life shared their own stories of struggle and loss. These letters became a source of profound comfort for Bill and Gloria. They realized that their personal trial was now part of a much larger story of human suffering and divine grace. Gloria, though struggling to find the words to respond, would read each letter. She couldn't write back, but she would often pat Bill's hand and whisper, "They get it. They really get it." This shared experience of vulnerability created a new, deeper bond between the Gaithers and their audience. They were no longer just icons on a stage. They were fellow pilgrims on a difficult journey. In the period following the sorrowful announcement, Bill and Gloria stood at a significant juncture. Their entire lives had been committed to sharing their faith through song. But as they now confronted this intensely personal obstacle, the question of their future course of action was paramount. For Bill, the idea of ceasing his musical work was almost inconceivable, but he understood that a change was necessary. In a sincere communication to their followers, Bill Gaither at last spoke to the concerns on everyone's mind. His message was filled with thankfulness, yet also colored by the feelings of a man confronting an uncertain future. "We have dedicated our lives to sharing music about faith, love, and the divine strength we receive in challenging times. Now we find that we need that strength more than ever," he stated. "While the future is unknown, one thing is certain: we are not by ourselves. Your prayers, your affection, and your steadfast support have brought us a level of comfort that is beyond our ability to express." He proceeded to clarify that for the time being, they would be dedicating their efforts to their family and health. There were no definitive farewells, but rather a simple commitment to rely on their faith and approach life one day at a time. The fans' response was one of empathy and comprehension. While no one wished for them to leave, there was a collective understanding that even the most resilient individuals require periods of rest. Even as they withdrew from the public eye, their musical influence persisted. Radio stations continued to play their songs. Congregations sang their hymns, and individuals discovered new significance in lyrics they had known for a long time. "I never truly grasped the depth of 'Because He Lives' until this moment," a fan remarked. "Their music has always been about having faith in God during uncertain periods. Now we have the opportunity to remind them of that very same principle." As for Bill and Gloria, their personal journey was by no means concluded. It is possible that they will one day make a return to the stage more resilient than before. Alternatively, their role in the gospel community might evolve into something different, focusing less on public performance and more on sharing their story of maintaining faith through life's most arduous moments. Whatever direction their lives took, one thing was certain: their legacy was not determined by their albums or accolades. It was shaped by the people they had influenced, the lives they had transformed, and the unwavering faith by which they had lived. Their home transformed. The grand piano in the living room, once the source of countless melodies, was now more often silent. But the house was not devoid of music. Bill found a new rhythm in their daily life. He became Gloria's primary caregiver, a role he embraced with a tenderness and devotion that was a testament to their long and loving marriage. He learned to be patient, to listen not just with his ears, but with his heart, to find joy in the small moments of connection that remained. He would read to her for hours, not just the scriptures, but poetry, novels, and her own lyrics. Sometimes a flicker of recognition would cross her face, a faint smile, and in those moments he felt a profound sense of peace. They discovered new ways to create together. Gloria could no longer write long passages, but she could still offer a word or a phrase, a flash of insight that would spark an idea for Bill. He began to keep a journal, jotting down these Gloria-isms, as he called them. These fragments of her enduring wisdom became the seeds of new songs, simpler, more contemplative, filled with a raw honesty about the pain of loss and the quiet strength of enduring faith. This new chapter of their lives was not one they would have chosen, but it became a powerful new ministry. They started a small private blog where Bill would share reflections on their journey. The blog quickly gained a massive following. People from all over the world, many of whom were also caregivers, found a sense of community and understanding in their story. Their legacy was being rewritten, not by a decline into silence, but by a courageous embrace of a new reality. They were teaching people that faith isn't about avoiding suffering, but about finding God in the midst of it. They were demonstrating that love isn't just about grand romantic gestures, but about the quiet, daily acts of service and companionship. The Gaither vocal band continued to tour, but with a new sense of purpose. The concerts became more than just musical performances. They were gatherings of a community united in prayer and support. Bill would often share stories from their life, talking about the lessons he was learning as a caregiver. The songs, many of them decades old, took on a new and deeper meaning. When the group sang "Something Beautiful," the audience understood that they were singing not just about a spiritual transformation, but about the beauty that can be found even in the broken pieces of a life. Bill and Gloria's journey was far from over, but they faced it with a quiet courage and an unshakable faith. They had spent their lives singing about a God who brings hope in the darkness, and now they were living that message in the most profound way possible. Their greatest work was no longer being written on sheets of music, but in the daily rhythm of their love, their resilience, and their unwavering trust. Their story became a living testimony, a final beautiful song that will continue to resonate in the hearts of millions for generations to come. Stay connected with our journey and receive updates and messages of hope. Subscribe to our channel to become a part of our extended family. Your support and prayers continue to be a source of immense strength for us as we navigate this season of life. We are grateful for every one of you,